We are now at the first Sunday of Lent, and we have begun our journey with the Lord. The Lord went out into the desert to get advice from the Father on how to perform his ministry, so Jesus wanted to be prepared to live out the plan God had for him. And it's exactly the same for you and me. We go out into the desert as a family. We go together. And it's a time of talking with each other as Jesus is there, part of our group, talking with us and giving us advice of how to fulfill our vocations in life, that we will become holy people. We will be better people after that journey with Christ out in the desert. So a typical family is going to go out into the desert with the Lord. And there's a story about this particular family that went to a music festival, and a 15-year-old became separated from the family. How unlike a 15-year-old. Family went to the police and reported that they had a teenager missing. The officer assured them that they certainly would look for the lost teenager, and they would do everything they could to find the lost. And probably the first place they went was to the lost and found department to see if he showed up yet. However, the policeman said, well, can you give me a description of the 15-year-old? And before the dad, talking to the officer, could give him a description, the 9-year-old in the family jumped in to the conversation. And you can picture the parents saying, uh-oh, this is going to be interesting. And it was. The 9-year-old spoke up very plainly, and here's what he said. He's tall. He's good at sports. He takes me to see movies. He lets me borrow all his good stuff. And he likes to buy me ice cream. His father interrupted at that point and looked and said, what's going on here? And he turned to the 9-year-old and he said, but son, that doesn't sound like your brother at all. The 9-year-old smiled mischievously and replied, I know, but who wants him back? How true it is. Typical response. But Lent now, how do we fit this in to Lent? Lent is the season for realizing whether or not families would want us back or not. The tightest unit that we're part of, the people we live with, the people we love the most and who love us the most, day in and day out. Ask yourself the question, what are they seeing? What are they experiencing with us? How well are we interacting? How well are we building up our family and making it stronger? Are we contributing to making ourselves better members of the family and therefore making our families better? So the season of Lent really is about the family And of course, the one who is part of our family, wherever we go, is going to be Jesus. And I'm really hoping that since we took off on our journey into the desert, that we didn't just kind of lag behind, unsure of what's going to happen, and Jesus is ahead of us. That's a no-no for Lent, the holy season. Jesus is not going ahead of us. He wants to be part of our group. He's walking with us. And he's beginning a conversation with you. He's talking to you all the way. And that's going to happen all during Lent. Jesus is going to talk about us. He knows us better almost than we know ourselves. Our families know us pretty well. But Jesus is going to give us some pretty good advice on how can you be the best person you can be. If we're honest, do we really think that at this moment in our lives that we are the best version of us that can be? Or do we have some space there? Are we growing into it? Are we going to become the best that we can be? That's what the Lord expects of us, to become the creation that God made. And that we need to look at ourselves during Lent and say, looking right now, for what I'm about in my life, am I the best person I can be? And then comes, what do I do about that? Lent calls us into the deserts of our hearts to turn away from attitudes, to turn away from behaviors that mire our lives in selfishness, unhappiness, or disappointment. And it challenges us to turn to the values that Jesus is talking to us about. You're going to hear that every day here. Jesus is going to speak through the Word. Listen to the Gospel. Read the Scriptures. Find out what He's talking about. The values that God wants us to embrace. Jesus was led into the desert to confront the mission before Him. Jesus wanted to be the best He could be and do His Father's will. And before He went out on His vocation and His ministry, He went out into the desert and said, I got to get my act together. If I'm going to be successful, if I'm going to be who I am, then I have to get on the same page as Him. And He has to point out what's getting in the way. What kind of attitudes or behavior is getting in the way of us being fully alive in the Spirit, fully part of our families, fully part of our parish, our community. And now we've got the church giving us a holy time, and the church, as you know, is usually full of a lot of advice. You'll hear a lot of suggestions as we go through Lent of how can I become a better person? You've got the 3 pillars already. Prayer, fasting, almsgiving. Have you already begun? Procrastination, I was told very early by every teacher I had in school, procrastination is not a virtue. Get on the job. Get it done. Think about it. Get serious about yourself. Take time out for you and who you are. And Jesus will say, I know who you are. Let's talk. So we are called to the desert, and in our hearts and in our spirits to confront what we are making of the time that the Lord has given us here on earth. He's given everyone sitting in this church has been gifted with talents that God has given you to accomplish your vocation. Not one of us has not been gifted by Him. Are you using your gifts? Do you come here at the offertory and we make our offering to the Lord? What are we going to put on the table today? What gift do we bring of ourselves that we're going to use to make ourselves a better member of our communities, our families? What will we bring to the altar that comes personally from us and says to the Lord, here's my gift. Use me to do something good, profitable, and to grow in my faith today. Grow into my family better. To grow into my church family better and my neighborhood. Give me the graces I need to use those talents. So what have we been giving? It also makes us want to consider what we want to make of our lives. What do we stand for? And what do we want to leave those we love? Lent challenges us to ask ourselves what we really do believe in. How do we really see us as a person of God? A person of our communities? And who are the most important to us? What are we willing to sacrifice for? To fight for? To die for? In confronting these questions honestly, sincerely and faithfully, we come to a new realization of God as the center of hopes and dreams of all of us. And we need that yearning for fulfillment of the Easter promise, the resurrection that we're tending towards and we will celebrate at the end of Lent. The Easter promise is that Jesus, I have given you life. I want you to live life to the fullest, complete. There's more to it than maybe you think. There's more living to do. There's more living in the Spirit to do. And Lent makes us focus. We're heading towards that event where Jesus wants us to live life to the fullest. And so, good luck. God bless you. Have a good conversation with the Lord during Lent. And hopefully, everybody here can say, yeah, I think we want him back in our family. I think he's got a lot to give, and I'll help. So make your journey a good journey. And make sure you have a really good conversation with the member who is walking with you every day.